Hello and welcome to Good Morning Sri Lanka on the 19th of February. You're here with me, Harith, and Sam. Hi Sam, how are you?
I'm good. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning and we have a lot of wonderful stories lined up for you. Harith?
And of course, Good Morning Sri Lanka this week we are going to take a close look at social media. It's going to be the social media week of Good Morning Sri Lanka. Of course, several interviews, several facts. It's a big phenomenon, Sam. I mean, social media, we were born into that era, I suppose. I remember the first time I got a hi-fi account.
That's true.
Came into the social media era and now here we are. It's just, we can't live without it.
Exactly. It started social revolutions. It connects people. So this week on Good Morning Sri Lanka, we're hoping to give you more information on social media networking, how to make it more accessible, how to make it more fun. We'll have interviews. We have a whole heap of things lined up for you for the social media networking.
Just to keep our listeners and viewers interested now, just something I got. Every minute there are 100,000 tweets, 2 million Google searches, 48,000 videos on YouTube uploaded, and 600,000 photos shared on Facebook. So it's amazing. I mean, just 1 minute.
It is 1 minute and 600,000 photos. That's amazing. So many memories.
So many
in 1 minute.
Of course, but of course there is the other side of it as well. Social media means that the hard copy is never there, and so on and so forth. So much to discuss, and that's what we're going to do on Good Morning Sri Lanka. And also we have some very interesting interview coming up, Sam, on the show about risk management, which is a very important element in the current global context. And leading up to a very interesting story also in the current news that Sri Lanka has been promoting our stock market in India. In Mumbai, about 100 listed fund managers in India have listed up to see what they can gain from the Sri Lankan stock market, and I think the government this year is taking a lot of steps to promote investment in the stock market, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Definitely.
From the world of entertainment, we have some stories.
From the world of entertainment, we have a lovely story from someone who used to be very reclusive and very private, especially with her personal life. Beyonce Knowles is releasing a documentary about her life. It's called Life is But a Dream. I think in this, lots of people have given it a lot of very heartwarming reviews. They've spoken about how instead of just that phenomenon they saw on stage, that amazing performer, they get to know Beyonce as a woman, as a mother, as a daughter, as an actual person. So it's not just a star, or not just a superstar.
That's
it's
right.
just somebody, you know, that they can understand and relate to. So
I mean, as a teenager, of course, Beyonce was that really hot superstar who came on TV and was wonderful. And she came from Destiny's Child, and then suddenly, as I was talking with you, I'm not really sure about her personal life too much, because whether she's married to Jay-Z or not, but she's been with Jay-Z for so long. They have a kid.
We have an interesting story. Her interview with Oprah Winfrey, who's a very close friend of hers. So we'll be showing you that on Good Morning Sri Lanka. So you can see how she teases the documentary. She talks about it. She talks about the experiences. She talks about what it's like to be all these things and to be a star as well. And she is someone who is very vocal about women's rights, about women taking up a very strong position in the media, in the world. So all of this will be there.
I think what is most interesting is the fact that it comes in this current context, which I'll talk about just after this video, and we'll have a quick look at this story from Beyonce.
Not take away the passion for performing. No. I feel like I did a show 3 months after I gave birth, which was really crazy. I had clearly never given birth and didn't know that I would gain 60 pounds and all the things.
Is that how much you gained?
Yeah, 57 pounds. But I really wanted to know, you know, and I feel so fortunate to do my job. I love my job. I love singing. I love the way it feels.
I think you get a great sense of is your relationship with Jay-Z. You balance being the fierce, independent woman with obviously a woman who also adores and loves her man.
Absolutely. And I would not be the woman I am if I did not go home to that man. And it just gives me such a foundation. And
how has he helped you?
On so many levels. You know, we were friends first for a year and a half before we went on any date, on the phone for a year and a half. And that foundation is so important in a relationship. And just to have someone that you just like, you know, is so important, and someone that is honest.
Do you know, I remember the first time you were on the Oprah show and I told you, don't go around telling people who you're dating. I think you took that all the way.
I took it as far as I could take it.
Oh my God. I didn't say, you don't tell people you're dating, but you can tell people who you're married to, okay?
Iconic two ladies from America, of course, Beyonce and Oprah Winfrey. So, interesting. As I told you, Sam, what's most interesting is there are a few controversies with regard to Beyonce recently.
Yes.
One was the issue where she sang at President Barack Obama's inauguration, and whether she's the kind of artist who should be portrayed in such a situation. And there was also the Super Bowl issue, which some thought that Beyonce did a very racy performance and so on and so forth. But I think in that context, when she brings out this story, she's just a normal person. She has an ordinary life, and it's interesting for people to know, isn't it?
That's true. She's a strong woman who's basically gone very far in her career, and who has sacrificed a lot, who's gone through a lot. So this is a great moment for us to get to know someone that we've grown up watching, someone whose music has been such a big part of our lives. So it's
inspirational. Who run the world? Girls. I was waiting for the answer. And also, I think speaking about women who have come strongly in their lives, we must mention the Sri Lankan cricketing team, from the female cricketing team. I mean, fantastic job in India. I mean, no one expected them win one match. They won matches with England, the former world champions, then with India, and then finally winning with South Africa, being placed overall 5th. And they returned to the island recently. It's fantastic, isn't it, Sam, for women's cricket?
Definitely, and it's such an inspiration to see these women with the resources that they've been given to take such a big stand and to shine on a world stage, you know, and to take Sri Lankan cricket, not just, it's been such a manipulation of men, and we didn't even know until very recently that there was
and now
a
we know the names.
team.
I know the names.
Yes.
I could tell you the first 5 people who bat in the team. Okay, but and the great thing is also that, of course, incidentally, Australia won the World Cup against West Indies yesterday. And
But hey, who knows? Next time, maybe it could be us.
I really think it could be, because I mean, we were the giant killers. We were the surprise package, and it shows women's cricket is improving. And in Sri Lanka, great strides have been taken. I read recently that
and that we have great talent.
Great talent, and the under 14 girls tournament schools-wise is going to start. And there are several schools from the east, from Colombo, and from the south, and so on. So I think it's really spreading.
So now, in a couple of years, we'll hear not just of boys who are going to be the next Muttai Muralidharan or the next Sarab Jayasuriya. We'll have ladies who are going to take on the world stage. So that's great.
And we might have some big matches coming up as well. And
yes,
it's so much. I mean, it's fantastic, and I mean, great for women's cricket.
Definitely.
And with that, we'll take a quick break on Good Morning Sri Lanka and be back. Hello and welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka on the 19th of February. We had an interesting roundup of some stories from around the world, and also reminding you that MTV Sports on Good Morning Sri Lanka is going to be talking about social media during this week. And Sam, now we have a very interesting guest.
We do. On the topic of risk management, we have Mr. Paul May, who is the chairman of Concordia Consultancy. He's a very familiar face with the insurance industry here. He's been in and out of Sri Lanka for the past 29 years. He tells us that he's made almost 85 trips, so we're very excited to have him. He basically advises most companies on insurance and risk management. So we have him here in the studio today. This is a very serious topic. It's something that our industries need to talk about. It's something that our companies have faced and have not faced so well, I should say. So Mr. Paul, being here is a great privilege. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning and welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
It's an interesting topic, Paul. Risk management. I would initially, when I was told these words, it was a very broad thing to me. But tell me what to you risk management is initially.
I think you're right. It is a very broad area. It can include banks. It can include corporate assessments. My main area is the protection of physical assets and the financial future of an organisation. So when I talk about risk management, it's how a business can protect its assets ensure that its employees don't lose their jobs if the place burns down or has an explosion, and that the shareholders' investment can endure after a big loss because of business interruption protection.
So you would bring it under the category of corporate risk management?
Yes, yeah.
Right. So, Paul, now, when you talk about corporates, now, is it just the big multinationals, or is it million-dollar companies, or what do you mean? Does it only relate to them?
I think it relates to anyone that has a value that they want to protect. And it's essentially a common sense application of a framework. But it's best if it's done by someone that isn't too familiar with the organisation. It's a bit like if your mother comes to your house, she'll see things in the house that you don't see. So we're very much like an external mother coming in, pointing things out, suggesting improvements, and trying to get it on the agenda of the main board. That is probably the biggest challenge, getting the main board.
In terms of, let's say, entrepreneurs and small industries, what could you give us a few examples of what it is? Is it simply risk management against natural disasters or fire or things like that? Does it entail things like traps that people can fall into in terms of investment? What does the whole thing entail?
Well, it's trying to identify, excuse me, your biggest risks, the ones that will have the biggest impact, and trying to minimize that impact. And the traditional way is through insurance.
Okay.
The reluctance that I've seen over the years in Sri Lanka has been for organisations to insure for their full value. So they might not insure their factory or their equipment or their studio for the full value to replace it. So when they do have a problem, they don't get the full amount back under the insurance, and if they don't have the protection of the business interruption cover, then any expense of loss of profits, they don't recover either. So generally it puts them in a very hazardous position.
Now, Paul, as you said, there are several risks. Now, as a general trend, could you suggest that these are certain types of common risks associated with any corporate entity?
Yeah, there are some very common physical ones, making sure that the place doesn't burn down, that people who aren't supposed to come in don't come in. But I think now, with the sophistication of the market, reputation is becoming a very important risk. And managing that requires a contingency plan, being able to respond quite quickly if there's a disaster, involving communications to all the parties, the employees, the customers, the suppliers, the government, the regulators, and so on. So that's why I say it should be on the agenda of the main board, because it's the lifeblood of the company that's at risk.
Now, as you said, now for example, let me bring a global issue. Recently, the British Petroleum problem in America. I think the name of British Petroleum went all over the place. There were several issues. What risks were associated, and how could they have, for example, averted it better?
Well, that's a really big question. I think one of the problems is that some years ago BP stopped insuring with insurers. They became a self-insured organisation, which meant they didn't really invite mother around anymore to look at what was going on. So I think they reduced the involvement of external eyes and ears. How they handled it was a separate issue that probably needed a better contingency plan and a little bit more empathy, especially from the chief executive at the time.
If you could give us a little bit of an understanding for everyone who's watching, what the cost for risk management entails. What is it for big industries? What is it for small industries? What is the cost?